demo. So I click record. I'm going to introduce you to my counterpart here, Stephanie.
Yeah, hi everybody. I work with Jason at the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. See some familiar faces here today. Good to see you, Erin and Yvonne. I'm an EdTech and Innovation TOSA, and I joined the Santa Cruz COE in July of 2020. And before that, I was working as an elementary teacher at one of our small school districts up in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
And so just a few logistical pieces. Please, if you have any questions at any time, enter them in the chat. If you can't get them off your brain, enter them in the chat. We do actually have a Padlet. We'll answer questions as well. So you can see that Padlet URL on the screen on the left here, sccoe.link/ask-shiftED. Stephanie, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so our hope with that Padlet is that if you have questions that come up either today or if you leave today's session and you're thinking and you're like, wait, but I forgot to ask this, or now I'm wondering this question, we'll leave this Padlet open so that you're able to go ahead and go and post your questions like a message board, and we'll keep checking and answering them. And then also you can see what other questions people are asking and read the answers to those as well. So the link one more time is sccoe.link/ask-shiftED, all lowercase, and we'll keep that Padlet open for you during today's session and beyond so that if questions come up, that can be a way for you to get those answered.
So what we're going to be talking about today is kind of the what is shiftED, why are we doing this, and how are we doing it. And hopefully most of that stuff is available on the website, but some of you will have some questions that we want to address. So you can either add them to the Padlet, and we'll have some time in just a moment for you to ask them face to face as well. So don't feel like you just have to stick to the Padlet as well. Yep, I'm going to share the Padlet link again in the chat. There it is. You go ahead and click on that to get to the Padlet. It's the same link. That's just the long link. The sccoe.link is actually a bit.ly, a branded bit.ly link that we set up to shorten our links, which we'll actually talk a little bit about during the shiftED trainings. So a couple things on what is it. shiftED was started back in March as a kind of initiative. We were asked by the California Department of Education to write a proposal around building digital literacy trainings for educators across the state of California. There is funding from PG&E, which is, you're all in the Bay Area, so you know PG&E is our electrical company here, or gas company for some as well. PG&E provided money to the California Department of Education Foundation to build out a digital literacy program to help teach students and educators about how to be literate in the digital world. And how to utilize these skills to understand media literacy and be ready for careers in 2025, 2030. My son is in 5th grade. He'll be graduating high school in 2030, for example. And so again, how do we build these skills and proficiencies around literacy in the digital world for our students? And how do we create a plan in our district? And so with that, we wrote a proposal, and the funding came into our county office. Our county office has supported the TCAL project the last 20 years, which is started as a statewide project from the California Department of Ed. It was legislation to support school administrators using technology effectively. We put on conferences across the state. We had a contract with the State Department of Arkansas. So we've done these statewide programs before. And as this being our first year around building this digital literacy initiative, we wanted to start small. So we thought we would just start with Bay Area and bring in about 30 educators or about 10 school sites and or districts to this program. And so again, the focus and the outcome is to actually build out a digital literacy roadmap for your school site or district. And so if you saw the website, which I'll navigate to in a moment, the American Library Association's Digital Literacy Task Force defines digital literacy as the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both mental or cognitive and technical skills as well. So it's basically being proficient in using technology to find and participate in our world. And there's actually frameworks and programs developed that already kind of identify this, that a lot of schools and districts have adopted across the country. So you can actually see right here that the ISTE standards, you may be familiar with the ISTE standards. The ISTE standards were developed as an international set of standards for students, educators, coaches, and administrators. And really, with the ISTE standards are kind of identified as technology standards. But if you look at the buckets, they're actually really focused on being able to perform effectively in our high-tech society or environment. And so these are already a set of standards that are developed and a framework that's developed in how we integrate these programs into our schools. Most states in the country have actually adopted these as statewide technology standards or digital literacy standards. California has not really done anything with these standards across the state. Then you might have seen this one as well. This is a set of digital literacy standards or proficiencies developed by England. England's developed these 7 buckets, or these 5 buckets, and then kind of these overarching topics: digital safety, digital well-being, digital identity, and digital security, all around kind of what does it mean to be truly a digitally literate citizen in England specifically. And what we did is, again, we only have a small time. We know educators are very busy. We took these ideas between the ISTE standards and the Digital Literacy England set of frameworks here, and we developed these kind of 3 focused areas or buckets around digital literacy, which is our program is going to focus on: digital safety, digital self-development, and digital participation. And so the idea is in how these technology, pedagogy, and curriculum support these 3 main buckets. And so we're going to support with partners along the way, with experts across the country along the way, to build out, helping school districts or school sites build out plans how they're going to implement digital safety, digital participation, and digital self-development in their schools and districts. And so with that, I'm going to quickly take you over to the website. And hopefully you saw that is all under the About section. Basically what I just mentioned. And so how are we going to do this now? How are we going to help you build these plans? We're going to do this in a few different ways. I'm going to scroll quickly down and let you know that because of your focus and your effort to be part of this kind of pioneer group for shiftED, every educator who's involved from your school site, whether they be administrator or a teacher or a media specialist, will receive a stipend of $1,250. And that will need to be paid by your district, or we will reimburse the district. Our county office, because of this grant, will reimburse the district, but that money will have to actually come from your district directly with an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, through us. And that's because they would have to pay for the step. So they would invoice us $1,250 plus whatever your statutory benefits are. And we can get in the weeds of that a little bit later. On our research page, we highlighted some of the research out there around digital literacy. And so you can see this report right here on why we're doing this. This is a report that came out of the National Skills Coalition. You can see these data sets specifically focus on what's digital skills, or what's the proficiency of digital skills for current employees in the workforce. And you can see 62% of most jobs are straightforward computer skills are needed for that job. And so most jobs, and this was back in, you can see back in 2012 to 2014 data sets. That's the most current data this organization has collected. If we probably did this survey again, we'd probably see those numbers increase significantly. And then below here, you'll see some ISTE standards, as well as a Health Education England framework that I mentioned earlier. To participate and to learn more about the participation process, you click on participate here, and it will walk you through on kind of the steps to be involved in this Pioneer shiftED program for 22-23. What we're looking for is a diverse team. And I mentioned a team of either 2 or more, and one of the team members has to be an administrator. We want this to be an empowerment and a program that has arrows aligned and create a common vision amongst multiple members of a school or district staff. And so that every single team member, we don't want all the experts. We don't want to preach to the choir. We want some diversity in this group so they can help support their peers and their job alike specifically. And again, here are all of the dates required. We have one face-to-face at the beginning of the year that is happening in Santa Cruz. So if you have a family and you want to participate in this, and you don't live in Santa Cruz, great time to go to a beach, September in Santa Cruz. You can guarantee it's going to be wonderful and sunny, 80% chance anyway. And then we have 2 online professional developments, which the 10-4, October 4th PD from 4 to 6 p.m. is going to be all it's going to be breakout, a job-alike breakout session. So all the administrators would get together and go to administrator sessions, and teachers would get together from across the Bay Area and go to these administrator breakout sessions to have what technology skills they can implement in the classroom. The November 15th day will actually be time for your working teams to build your plan with coaching support to start building your plan. So the idea, the outcomes to build a roadmap for the next 3 years of how you're going to implement and integrate digital literacy across your school site or district or grade level span. And then we're going to meet for about 75 minutes once a month to just discuss how things are going, how are things changed. And finally, we want to bring everybody together and invite the community across the Bay Area together on May 13th to have a showcase on how you're going to be implementing your plan either this current year or next year. And so we're asking all teams to apply by the 26th, and only one application per team. And so we're going to continue to curate resources. In fact, we're going to be using California Educators Together, which is, if you haven't seen this wonderful resource, this is developed by the California Department of Education to host curriculum, showcase resources. So everything we discuss and provide resources, our community of practice, online community of practice will happen. We'll have a group on California Educators Together. So I just talked a lot, and that took about 15 minutes. I'm going to stop right there and have you take a deep breath. And what questions do you guys have?
Yeah, Jason, you actually have a question in the chat from Katrin, who's wondering if this applies as well to the K2 grade span. She is a K2 literacy coach and the school's tech liaison.
So it's up to your school team to determine what grade span you would like to focus on. We just talked to somebody earlier today. They want to focus on just high school. So some teams are going to focus on just K5, a whole school site. Some teams will focus on a whole district, K12. It is really up to you and your team how you want to develop this. And the idea is I'm guessing most of you guys do not have a digital literacy strategic plan or roadmap. The idea is to build something out for a specific grade level as a model that can then be used and transformed by other districts and other school sites and other grade spans across the state of California.
And I wanted to piggyback on that idea. My hunch is that if you're here today, you're probably interested in digital literacy and might be a leader for that at your site or district. And the purpose of the shiftED program is that we can't do it alone, right? It's a big lift to ask to move digital literacy forward at our sites. And so the power of this program is really the power of the crowd that we have gathered here and working together to collaborate on determining action items to make digital literacy a reality. And so that's really the hope in terms of meeting with those community of practice meetings, is that you'll be able to collaborate with like-minded peers across the Bay Area to really get insight into what they're doing at their sites that you can bring back to your team. That's also the reason why participating as a team is so important, is because we want you to have immediate access and insight from people in a variety of positions, from your administrator, from classroom teachers, from coaches and tech liaisons, right? We want all of those people working together to think about how to move digital literacy forward.
So feel free to we're open up. This is your time to ask any other questions, get any clarification, crowdsource some questions. How many teams will there be? Sandra asks, do team members need to be school staff, administrators? Is there a place for parents? So right now we are focusing on to have about 10 teams. We're looking on average about 30 educators to be part of this project. So whether it be 10 school sites, 5 school sites, 5 school districts, again, however you form your team, can be done depending upon your needs and your culture or climate at your site or district. And we're really looking to involve right now just the educational community for this program. And then ideally, maybe one of your elements or one of your plan items would be engaging your parents after the fact or during simultaneously as you're going through this educational professional learning event. Other questions, and feel free, don't be shy to unmute.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So something that I work as a mental health specialist here at Bayview, and something that our parents have a really difficult time with is something that maybe all of us would have a difficult time with, like trying to track down services like social services to get the help that they need for their family, or even something that when I get a new insurance and I got to find an acupuncturist and I got to okay, I have Kaiser, but I have to, there's this weird thing that is contracted through Kaiser. Now I gotta kind of go down all these rabbit holes of bureaucracy, and I have to use all of my digital literacy skills to dial in kind of getting what I need. So I was trying to put this into, when I heard what your definition of digital literacy was, I was thinking well, how does this apply to elementary school kids, or what? And so as a team, are we going to be trying to come up with creating our own goals and then our own roadmap to find those goals? I have parents that can't navigate social service acquisition, and that would be hard for any adult. I think it's hard for me. So what's the learning edge for elementary school? What should they know how to do when it comes to digital literacy? Would that be opening a Word document or a Google Home, creating their own, I don't know, are we kind of coming up with those goals as a team? Is that, I'm trying to really understand what the point of this is, and it's not clear to me.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that question, Josh. A couple of things is the answer is yes. We're kind of in the era of local control, and we're all at different spots in different places at our school sites or at our districts, and we have different priorities based upon, ideally you align this to what is priorities in your LCAP, for example, for your district's LCAP, or your if you do it at a school site, for your school site plans. And so how do you take those goals and align to how does that focus on digital literacy and tying in digital literacy to those goals? So it's going to be very different for Santa Cruz City schools than it would be for Saratoga, for example.
Okay.
And so it just depends on what the needs are. If there's a big need around mental health, then yeah, maybe it's going to be how do you navigate the world of mental health providers in through the web, through phone agencies. How do you use telehealth appropriately would be an example, maybe. And how do you support that? And so how do the idea of building your own roadmap depending upon where you are at as a school district. And let me just quickly share my screen because you guys are the first to see this tool. We're not even having you guys sign a non-disclosure agreement, but that's okay. We are building an application that you're going to be using to plan out your, I'm sharing the wrong thing, I'm sorry, apologies. You're going to be building an application, or we're going to be using an application to build out your roadmaps and your plans. And so the application is going to kind of look something like this, where you can see every action that, or every topic that's related to safety and the idea of digital safety. So for example, making sure you have strong passwords. And so what are some actions you can do in your own school, depending on maybe you're K2, making sure students know what a password is at first grade is an important skill you want to develop and you want to teach throughout your first grade. And how do you do that? Maybe it's their log into to Scratch Junior or Khan Junior, Khan Academy, for example. Even just creating a safe password and how do you create safe passwords is a skill you want students to develop. Where do you do that along the grade level continuum? It's up to your school and district. There's nothing in ed code that says you have to do it in this grade. So it's up to you, but we want to assist you in developing that plan. And then finally, there'll be a list of everybody's plan here where you can see what other people are doing if they are willing to share and publish their plans and what they're doing. So you can kind of see what Saratoga is doing around this, or vice versa. You can see what Cupertino is doing around this plan. And the idea is all this guidance will be developed by you during our first day, as well as some experts in the field. So you'll be able to pull what are some ideas and actions related to digital citizenship. So you'll have access to this entire app and build your roadmaps through this.
I love that example. Thank you so much. That is really helpful. One more question, if there is not anyone else chomping at the bit here. how do we get the $1,250? When and where does that come into play?
So that comes at the end of the year, end of the school year, after you showcase and all your all the scope of work is met. And so that would be it would be a memorandum of understanding with our office and your school district that says this is the people participate in this program. You're going to invoice us at the end of the year based upon the cost of this person, $1,250 plus any statutory benefits. We would then pay the school district and they would pay you directly.
Thank you.
We have this program, something similar to several other programs. Because of new laws in payment, we can't contract directly with current STRS or PERS member right now. Other questions? Did everybody get some explanation today? All right.
Jason, I had a quick question.
Yes, Daryl.
So if I understand correctly, it's going to be a community practice, which means we're going to have like a neutral group that can kind of look like what we're developing. And did you mention something about coaching or mentors that were also going to be involved in the process?
Correct. Yeah, we're working with the Learner Center Collaborative to assist. They're a nonprofit based actually out of San Francisco. Devin Vadichka is the CEO. He was 2-time superintendent of the year down in Vista Unified. He works with an educator out of Texas named Bree, who helped build out the Future Ready, the U.S. Department of Ed's Future Ready framework. So they're going to be involved in supporting us. We have a group, the TCAL Cadre group is also going to be involved. So they're statewide leaders in technology and innovation who've been administrators. And then we're working directly with Q as well. So Q will be involved and supporting us through this effort for teachers specifically, innovation for teachers.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
Other questions?
Jason, I just wanted to put into this space. I know another question that we've received a couple of times via email is just what are we considering Bay Area educators? So where's our reach for this project?
Great question. So we basically use the term Bay Area because it encompasses, basically the North Bay, the South Bay, the Monterey Bay, the East Bay. But really we're open, and again, we needed to regionalize it somehow. So our focus is basically any district that in the general region of a bay, or considered a bay, and are somewhat are PG&E customers or have PG&E customers in their constituencies. Again, this is a PG&E grant, so that's kind of our focus. We have to limit our numbers to 10 school districts and 30 educators, so we had to start somewhere. Ideally, we're going to launch this. This is a kind of our first pilot year. The idea is to then grow this statewide. So we're definitely looking for pioneers to really help us kick this off and help launch this as our first kind of premier group here.
Yeah, I have another question for you, Jason.
Mhm.
And I'm excited that you're putting this together. I think you're a great team, and the two of you are going to do a great job with this, just knowing what I know about what you do in Santa Cruz. But my question is, I run a couple after school programs. So would an after school program be a place where I could implement this, or are you looking just for classrooms?
We're really trying to create change in the core programs. And so I'm not saying no to that. I think we have to think about really the influence that would have into core programs. So we're probably going to be prioritizing to core curricular programs and traditional programs rather than optional after school programs.
Okay.
But if there's interest in a way you can make it innovative and tie that into it during your proposal, I don't think we're not going to completely doubt out of it. We'll keep that out of the options as well.
All right, thank you.
I could see an after school program really supporting the work that happens during the core instructional minutes. So I feel like joining forces with a team that is also working during the school day, like that would be super powerful to think about what can happen during the school day and then how can the after school program support that work, if that helps to answer your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the idea here is, I think that's a great idea. And Jennifer, if you want to bring after school program to support the core program, and you can really create an extended day digital literacy program, right? And so that's a good example. And then, you know, other districts can say, oh, wow, that's a great idea too. I can learn from what Jennifer's doing if she's part of that group. So the idea is not only learning from these experts, but learning from each other. And that's the focus. You know, you mentioned Daryl, to really around this community of practice, because you guys are going to be the ones implementing and trying this stuff out. So the community of practice for you guys to learn from each other across the Bay Area.
I also wanted to put out into the space that I'm watching the registrations come in and the interest, and there have been a few people that have reached out to me that are alone and are looking for a team, but I've noticed that there have been other people in their school sites or their districts that are also looking for a team. So if you're in that boat and you're like, I want to join, but I can't seem to find someone else who will join with me, please reach out to us, because we can let you know if there's someone else in your district or area that has also expressed interest and help to connect you to form that team.
I do want to be sensitive of the time. We're at 12:30. We're gonna keep this at 12:30, but if there's other questions, we can stay around for a little bit. Or you can feel free to email us at any time at shiftED@santacruzcoe.org. That little fancy email just goes to Stephanie and I, so we'll both see it. And that is this is a dynamic group here. Remember, it's not just all about the most savvy folks or innovative folks in your district. We want a mix, right? We want this to be a very heterogeneous mix of team members.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone that the application deadline is coming up. So if it's something that you're interested in, please go back and refer to the website and take a look at that application and think about submitting sooner rather than later. Thanks everybody for coming.
And feel free to use that Padlet. If any questions come up, we'll be happy to answer ongoing, and you can come back to that anytime. Have a wonderful day and end your week.